Okay, welcome everybody. So welcome to today's session, exploring the competency-based assessment system here at Engineers Geoscientists Manitoba. Thank you for joining us. We have a lot of you signed up for today's session, and we're hopeful that this will be really informative and useful for you wherever you are in the process. So on behalf of the association, I'm Gemma Keach, the events coordinator for Engineers Geoscientists Manitoba, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. So before we start, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that the association office and the majority of its practitioners are located on Treaty 1 territory and the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, Inuit, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. Many generations have arrived to our province and contributed to its development, but we must not forget that this land, Indigenous land, has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. Those first people called this area home for generations and thrived, took care of the land, and developed unique ways and methods of design to survive in our province's harshest of conditions, the province's original engineers and geoscientists. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories, we acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. First, I'd like to go through a few housekeeping items. You will find that you are unable to unmute or turn on your video today. As I mentioned, we do have a lot of you joining us, so that's just to help things move smoothly. We do want to hear your questions though. So if you do have any questions as we go through, we do encourage you to type them into the chat box. At the end of the session, the admissions team that are joining me today will be taking your questions, and that's going to form a very big part of what we're here today for. Now, there are a lot of you, and I just want to remind everybody, this is a group format. So I know you all have those individual burning questions about your particular situation. Unfortunately, this forum is not the place for those very specific questions. It's not that they're bad questions. We still think they're super relevant, but we want to give you individual attention for those ones. So if you have a question that's super specific to your own individual circumstances, we're going to be sending you out contact information for everybody you're going to hear from today. We're going to ask you to reach out to them directly after this session to get those questions the answers that they deserve. The session is being recorded, so you can revisit it afterwards. If you have to leave early, that's not a problem. And a link will be sent to you, your email tomorrow, along with that contact information as well. And do feel free to share that link with others if you feel that this information will be valuable to them. So it's now my pleasure to hand over to the admissions team. It's going to take you through the rest of today. And they're going to introduce themselves, but we're going to start with handing over to Anjanette. So Anjanette, it is over to you.
Thanks, Gemma. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Anjanette Zielinski, and I'm the Director of Registration with the Admissions Department at Engineers Geoscientists Manitoba.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Claudia Shimko, and I'm the International Registration Program Coordinator. I work with those that are internationally educated. I've been with the association for 16 years now. My role is to assist and coordinate the CBA process for the internationally trained engineers and geoscientists who are seeking registration in Manitoba.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chantal Cabral. I'm the Domestic Registration Program Coordinator. I've been with the association for 16 years. My role is to assist and coordinate the CBA process for domestically trained engineers and geoscientists seeking registration in Manitoba.
Great. So I think I'll just kick off today's presentation. You're joining us here to learn more about competency-based assessment, and we're here to answer any of your questions. For those of you who are unaware, Engineers Geoscientists Manitoba is the licensing body for the practice of engineering and geoscience in Manitoba. The function of geoscientists, or the association, is to protect the public by ensuring that the practice of engineering and geoscience in Manitoba is carried out by only qualified, registered professional engineers and geoscientists. So the association has transitioned to a new registration process to gain professional licensure called competency-based assessment, often referred to as CBA. So this new process is more efficient, streamlined for applicants to show their readiness for professional registration by demonstrating their progression to a professional level of competency in their field during their work experience. So what is CBA? Well, competency-based assessment is a type of assessment conducted to determine if an applicant has progressed to a professional level of competency in their field during their work experience. So competency can be defined as the ability to perform the tasks and roles of an occupational category to standards expected and recognized by employers and the community at large. Objectives of CBA are to ensure that requirements for registration are clear and transparent, and that foreign qualification recognition is fair and follows best practice. So I'll now ask Claudia to lead you through the CBA overview, and Chantal will follow with more information. Claudia?
Thanks, Anjanette. These are the steps that an applicant must go through in order to become a professional member. Each bubble, which is shown on the screen, indicates an essential step in the process. The first part of the flow chart, so the left-hand side, shows the steps on how to apply. And then the second part of the flow chart, which is the right-hand side of the flow chart, it shows what happens after that applicant's file has been assessed. So we're going to I'm going to just quickly talk to you about where the red line is dividing, how to become registered after the documents have been assessed. So what happens after the red line? Let me explain to you. Next slide, please. At the application assessment stage, the documents are reviewed. If an applicant has completed a post-secondary program, typically bachelor's degree of at least 4 years in duration from an accredited or recognized engineering or geoscience program, they are invited to enroll to CBA. For those applicants who have not completed a post-secondary program, bachelor's degree of at least 4 years in duration in engineering or geoscience, well, they will be asked to complete the confirmatory program, which means that they're being asked to confirm their academic qualification. The confirmatory program is assigned to confirm the level and quality of academic education. The confirmatory program can be completed in 3 ways. Option 1 is the IEQ program offered through the University of Manitoba. Option 2 is the Fundamentals of Engineering exam or Fundamentals of Geology exam offered through NCEES. Or option 3 is completion of a Master of Science in Engineering or Geoscience at the University of Manitoba. Successful completion of any of these 3 options will result in the applicant being declared academically qualified, which basically means the applicant is then invited to enroll into competency-based assessment. Applicants assigned the confirmatory program will be asked to pay the confirmatory program fee. The payment for the fee is made through the online profile. Before we start talking about competency-based assessment, let's quickly go through some of the terminology so that we're all on the same page. Applicants. Applicants are referred to the individuals applying for registration as a professional engineer, professional geoscientist, engineering licensee, or geoscience licensee. Validators. Validators are the individuals who have firsthand professional knowledge of the applicant's work, usually a supervisor or a colleague, who verify and provide feedback on the applicant's engineering or geoscience work experience. Assessors. Assessors are qualified engineers, Geoscientists Manitoba volunteers in the applicant's area of practice, and they assess the documents on behalf of the association. They review the applicant's submission as well as validators' feedback. They provide ratings for each competency, and they make a recommendation on the applicant's readiness for professional registration. Staff. the admissions team at Engineers Geoscientists Manitoba, who deal directly with applicants, validators, and assessors throughout the process. So we talked about the CBA terminology. Let's talk about the reporting system. Competency-based assessment reporting system is the term used to describe the CBA online reporting system. The system is used by many Canadian engineering and geoscience regulators. It is a system that applicants, validators, and assessors use to do the reporting in. The system itself is user-friendly and easy to navigate. Competency-based assessment is a type of assessment conducted to determine whether an applicant has progressed to a professional level of competence in their field during their work experience. Competency can be defined as the ability to perform the tasks and roles of an occupational category to the standards expected and recognized by employers and the community at large. Here is a quick overview of each element in the process. The framework is used to complete the self-assessment. It outlines the competencies related to work experience in an engineering or geoscience environment that are essential for professional geoscientists and engineers in all disciplines to ensure effective practice and public safety. We'll speak more about the framework in the next slide. The self-assessment is where the applicant self-reflects, documents, and rates their competencies. The rating scale is the scale used to determine whether the applicant has achieved the required level of competence to gain registration. Achievement of each category is measured through a competency rating scale that outlines the differences between the different levels of competence from 0 to 5. Validators. Validators verify, rate, and comment on the applicant's assessment. They answer a set of general questions about the applicant's readiness for licensure. Assessors. Assessors review the applicant's competency examples and the validator's feedback. The assessors provide scores for each competency and they comment on the applicant's readiness for licensure. This is the competency framework, which is used by applicants to complete the self-assessment. The framework outlines the competencies related to work experience. On the left-hand side, it shows the competency framework for engineering, which consists of 7 competency categories. On the right-hand side, it shows the competency framework for geoscience, which consists of 4 competency categories. The categories represent the essential areas in which professionals of all disciplines must demonstrate competence in order to ensure effective practice and public safety. Each competency category contains a list of key competencies required in that area. Engineering has 34 competencies with generic, non-discipline specific indicators. Geoscience has 29 competencies with generic, non-discipline specific workplace examples. This is an example showing the category, competencies, and indicators. Indicators workplace examples are activities, actions, skills, or behaviors that an applicant can use to demonstrate the existence and achievement of a competency. The list of indicators or workplace examples for each competency is provided to help applicants understand what types of experience can be used to meet each requirement, or what specific knowledge base, experience, or skills they must develop before achieving professional registration. Indicators, workplace examples are provided for guidance to the applicants only. They help an applicant interpret what is needed to be described in practice. The self-assessment section is where applicants document their competencies. In this section, detail is encouraged. Applicants should be specific in describing how a competency was met. When selecting examples, applicants should pay close attention to the indicators, workplace examples provided in the system. because they are intended to assist in identifying typical evidence to submit. Each competency example includes situation, a brief overview of a specific situation or problem. The same situation can be used to cover multiple competencies. Action, the actions taken in response to the situation, including engineering or geoscience judgments made or solutions found. The action section is typically the longest portion of the example and should include details about the specific actions taken to demonstrate completion of the competency. Here, applicants should be specific about individual work and contributions. They are asked to use the word I to clearly indicate the work that they did. Please note, we do allow point form in this section. Outcome, the impact that actions, solutions, or judgments generated. Each competency includes the following components: category, competency, indicators, employer and position, validators, start date, end date, situation, action, outcome. Applicants may use both the competencies and their indicators as guidelines to identify suitable and relevant projects and activities from their experience that best demonstrates achievement of each competency.
As we mentioned, during the self-assessment, applicants should be specific in describing how a competency was met. This sample shows a weak and strong situation description. The strong sample provides more specific details and is clear. I'll just leave this on this slide so you can have a chance to read it. Next, this is a sample which shows a strong action description because it's specific about the applicant's individual work and contributions. As mentioned just a moment ago, the use of the word I shows the work that the applicant performed. This sample shows a strong outcome description because it's specific about the impact of the applicant's action, solutions, and judgment. The competency rating scale is the scale used to determine whether the applicant has achieved the required level of competence to gain registration, with 0 indicating no exposure and 5 being at a professional level. In each category, it has a required minimum level of competence, which is set at level 3 or level 2. The applicant must satisfy the overall category average for each of the competency sections at the entry to practice level, or level 3. The CBA system asks applicants to select their validators at the beginning. Applicants and validators need to know the following. A minimum of 4 validators are required, and a minimum of 2 must be professional engineers or professional geoscientists. Validators are typically professional engineer or professional geoscientist supervisors, but may also be colleagues, clients, consultants with firsthand knowledge of the work experience and competence. Here are the steps the validator goes. First, they receive a notification link to access the CBA system. The CBA system offers a quick, easy-to-follow online training which teaches them how to navigate the system. They review the employment history. They then must accept or decline the role. If the validator has a conflict of interest, they may also decline the role. Next, they upload a business card or resume into the supporting documents section to confirm their identity. Validators verify, rate, and comment. However, they may ask the applicant to revise, redo, or self-reflect again before providing the validation. For example, if the validator doesn't feel the examples are clear, or maybe the rating the applicant scored themselves at is not fair, the validator can guide the applicant by providing them with feedback before completing the validation. Last, the validator finishes the process by answering a set of general questions about the applicant's readiness for registration. Please be aware that the overall feedback provided in the validation process is confidential and not visible to the applicant. Here are a few suggestions for applicants. Be honest. Make sure the self-assessment is clear. Please be aware that the CBA system will ask the applicant to declare if there is a family connection. Discuss with validators the validation process and their willingness to validate. Be considerate. If the validator needs more details or asks for clarification, be patient. Please be aware interim validation is an option. This means applicants can complete their competencies and send it to their validator immediately for validation. The purpose of the interim validation is if you want to lock down a competency because you're moving to employer. Confidential information should be discussed with validators in advance. For example, use words such as Project X in City Q, then inform the validator separately which projects will be supported. When the validation process is completed, the report goes to the assessor. Assessors are licensed professional engineers and geoscientists who are bound by confidentiality and assess applicants on behalf of their regulatory body. They are notified by email once the applicant is ready for review. Assessors review the education and employment experience. They review, rate, and comment on the self-assessment and provide ratings. Assessors review the feedback of the applicant's validators and provides recommendations and comments on the applicant's readiness for registration. When the assessor submits their recommendation on the applicant's readiness for professional registration, the admissions team receives an email notification from the reporting system. The team conducts the review of the report to ensure all necessary checks are complete. If the assessor recommends registration and the National Professional Practice Exam is passed, admissions prepares the report to go to the registration committee for their review and consideration. If the assessor does not recommend registration or provides a rating that does not meet the required level, the applicant may be asked to revisit a specific competency and provide additional information or details. Applicants should receive feedback as to whether the experience is accepted by the registration committee within approximately 3 months from the time the CBA report was accepted. We mentioned a moment ago about how the team conducts the review to ensure all is complete. One important requirement is passing the National Professional Practice Exam. This exam must be passed before any file is sent to the registration committee. The National Professional Practice Exam, commonly referred to as the NPPE, is a closed book 2.5-hour exam on professionalism, law, and ethics. To register for the exam, log into the association online profile. The exam is offered 5 times a year virtually by the exam administrators Measure Learning. The exam can be taken anywhere in the world as long as the computer and internet requirements are met. The NPPE website has detailed information including how to register, exam dates, and studies. CBA is not timed. It doesn't matter where or when competencies were gained, they are eligible for consideration. By adopting the new CBA program, the association is committed to a more efficient and streamlined process for applicants to demonstrate their readiness for professional registration. The template structure allows applicants to document and describe their experiences in only one report.
So in closing, we'd like to bring your attention to a number of resources that would be very helpful to familiarize yourself with. First off, the competency-based assessment guide for applicants, validators, and assessors, which is located on the association's website at the links on the slide, is a very helpful resource and has detailed information about the content of this presentation. Also, we are holding monthly virtual CBA overview sessions, of which this one is taking place today, but we do intend to offer more sessions in the coming year. Also, I'd like to bring your attention to our manual admissions. This has been updated and is located on our website as well. So if you are planning to apply, please refer to the manual of admissions, which lists all the requirements, including required documentation. For students that are enrolled with the association, I'd like to just note that you do have access to the CBA log experience, or sorry, work experience log, and this is accessible through your online profile. You'll want to use that log to document your work experience while you're a student, and then when you become an intern, you can use those work experiences in your CBA report. So thank you for joining us today. We hope this presentation has been informative and of value to you. If you do have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact admissions staff at the following links. And I'd just like to thank you again for joining us. And we can now answer any of your questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody from the admissions team. Great presentation as always. So everybody, the chat box is open. I did just pop a message in there if you haven't seen it yet. You can find the little chat bubble probably at the bottom of your screen if you are on a laptop. If you're joining us on a phone, you need to click the 3 buttons for more. It will probably be under there. So open up that chat box, type in your questions, and let's start grilling the admissions team. All right, Chantal, if I can get you to unshare your screen so that we can see you all a little bit clearer. Perfect. Wonderful. And we'll just dive right in. Now, we did touch upon the NPPE, an early question that we had, which we kind of touched on, but I just want to clarify this for everybody. This person is asking about if they have passed the FE, so if you want to quickly touch on what that is, are they exempted from the NPPE? Who wants to take this one?
Can you say that again?
Yeah, so this question is the FE. So as I understand it, the foundations of engineering.
Yeah. And
they're asking, are they exempted from taking the NPPE?
No, sorry, let me answer that.
Yes.
The fundamentals of engineering.
Fundamentals, yes.
The fundamentals of engineering is clearly an exam that is part of the confirmatory program, and the national professional practice exam is the one that is towards the end of the process, and we showed the how to register flowchart. It's at the end, the one that everyone must complete before they can go to the registration committee. Chantal didn't mention that earlier, so no, the answer to that question is no, they are separate, different exams.
Yeah. No avoiding the NPPE. Everyone's got to take it. I like, you all shook your head in unison. That was wonderful. Okay, I think this is a question more for Chantal. So can we cover a little bit about undergraduate student experience, specifically reporting co-op related experience? So I think the question is, can they report co-op related work experience?
Yes, they can. They can report it once they become enrolled as an intern with the association. So if they're a student enrolled with the association, they'll have that, as Anjanette mentioned, they'll have access to a work log where they can actually start documenting it, and then they can copy and paste from that work log straight into the CBA system once they access it.
So perfect reason to be a student member with the association. Yeah, wonderful. Question here about, is there any plans to post examples of like good competency reports for each category?
I don't think we have any plan to do so at time. We sort of want to get away from this because we don't want to be overly prescriptive in how each applicant approaches completing their competency. So no, at this time we will not be posting examples. However, we did include sort of to give you a sense of what a strong versus a weak description was for a situation, action, and outcome. So hopefully that provided some information, some guidance to those that are approaching this.
And to add to Anjanette, just if anyone wanted to see like a print screen of exactly how it's entered, it is on page 29 of the guide.
Perfect. And that's actually a perfect segue into my next question. Someone is saying they would appreciate having a copy of this presentation. So we are providing a recorded version of this presentation. Also, the content of this presentation can mostly be found within the CBA guide that Claudia just referenced, and also our website section of the CBA process. If you haven't found that already, you probably have, but I will be sending out those links again tomorrow with the recording. So all that information, none of this is secretive. It's all available on the website, and we will direct you there if you haven't found it already. Now, here's an interesting question. I've been doing this a while, and I haven't heard this question before. So I also want to know this answer. Can someone be both? So this person is using the term GIT and EIT, which we currently now are not so much. We're kind of steering away from that. We're saying geoscience intern and engineering intern. So can someone be both a geoscience intern and an engineering intern at the same time? That is, if someone has a 4 years bachelor's degree in geology and an MSc degree in petroleum engineering. I want to know the answer to that question too.
In my time with the association, I can say that there are two separate applications. So it's an EIT, an intern application, and then a geoscience application, and they are given different ID numbers. And I would look to Anjanette. My opinion would be for that individual to contact us directly, just because experience was a long time ago. So might be a good idea just have that conversation on one-on-one with that applicant and kind of go that way. Anjanette, would you?
Yeah, this seems to be sort of a more unique case.
Very unique. I'm just curious.
Yeah, but I think getting just back to what Claudia mentioned about the application form, when we ask applicants to apply, they do have to identify sort of the area, right? So that also turns back to initially that undergraduate degree. And then, but we would also, in this scenario, have a look at the master's education. So again, this is a very unique situation we don't come across very often. Yeah. So we'd encourage this individual to reach out to the association.
Reach out to us. We'd love to chat to you more. But do know that we do have lots of people, well, not lots, but certain people in the association that are both professional engineers and professional geoscientists. So they're certainly not mutually exclusive, and we're not saying that at all. So good on you for being both. Okay, question here, and I apologize because I do not understand this term. So I'm going to read it out verbatim and hopefully you will understand it. Do you have a sandbox to try this new process out? I apologize. I do not understand the term sandbox. Do you know what this question is?
I think this is probably like, is there somewhere they can test out and see what CBA is all about, maybe in sort of that website that was included, the competency assessment website, so that people can kind of see what this actually looks like. I think that's what the question is getting at. So currently, no, we don't have something like that available. We did try to go through sort of, the steps that would go through, but to actually fill out the competency-based assessment, self-assessment and generate the report, it's really straightforward, very user-friendly, very intuitive system. You fill out fields, you're asked a series of questions and that sort of thing. So it's a really user-friendly system. We also mentioned we're not the only regulator that is using this. It's used by a number of regulators across Canada that have been using it for actually longer than we have, and that have put a lot of time and effort in testing and receiving feedback. So again, it's very user-friendly once you get into the system. Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Perfect. I am seeing all these questions split in. I am seeing some quite specific questions regarding people's specific situations. I did say this at the beginning, but I forgot to say it right now. So this is probably a good time to mention to everyone watching. if you do have a very particular question that is about your specific situation and it doesn't really apply to other people, we aren't going to kind of delve into those right now. We do encourage you, if your question is asked and I don't say it out loud, it probably is for that reason, if we haven't already asked that question again. So take that as a sign that you need to reach out to this lovely team by email and ask that question directly so that we can get you the individual advice that you need. Okay, Chantal, this one's for you. Does this process take about the same time as the time-based reporting system? About 4 years, question mark.
CBA isn't time-based, right? So if you complete your competencies and it's less than 4 years, it is eligible for consideration. So it is possible. That means they have to be validated and then they have to be assessed. So, but it is possible.
Absolutely.
If I could just add to that response, just to add, we do seem to get this question very often.
Yes.
Remember that part of your CBA report includes your work experience history, and both the validator and assessor will take that into consideration. So even though we haven't stated it's going to take, 48 months or, 4 years to go through the process, you do have to take into consideration it is going to take you some time to develop these competencies. However, if you are new to Canada and you have had a career as an engineer or a geoscientist in your home country, you have worked for several years, chances are that you could potentially get through the CBA process quite quickly, as opposed to the standard for 4 years that was the prior system. So just some information to add on that.
Yeah, and I wanted to take that one head on early because I feel like I haven't scrolled all the way down. We see this a lot. We understand, we hear you. It's hard to take that mental shift from 4 years away from that time-based system. We understand. So we're just going to keep saying it. Not a time-based system. Okay, question about employment history, because Anjanette just mentioned that one. So for the employment history, I think it was Claudia showed an example of filling in the log. What end date does someone put if employment is ongoing? Is there an option to just put ongoing, or do they have to give an end date for that? Do you know? That's a very specific question again, but an interesting one.
That's actually a good one. I don't know the answer. I would say
Probably
look into that and get back. Probably the current date. And
yeah, date of submission.
Yeah, because yeah,
that's a good question though.
It is a good question.
Yeah, I have, again, every time we do this, something else, right? We're learning as we go as well. Do they still have to complete volunteering hours as well as professional hours on top of their CBA? So does somebody want to talk about how kind of volunteer hours and professional development hours fits in with the CBA program or not? Who wants to take that one?
Chantal, do you want to take that?
Sure. So in the old system, yeah, there was a separate reporting for professional development and volunteer service, and in the CBA system, category 7 has somewhat kind of replaced that area. It is more focused on professional development, but that is the category that's kind of replacing the old reporting for the professional development volunteer service.
And just
I don't know.
Just to add, and just to be very clear on this, there are no required number of professional development hours or volunteer service hours in the CBA system. But as Chantal mentioned, in the competency-based assessment report, that category 7 is where you would document and explain how you have developed professionally, maybe what are some of your gaps, what you're working on, what your training plan is, and include maybe any experience you've gained through volunteer work that would be applicable as well into that section. But there are no set required hours for either professional development or volunteer service.
Perfect. This one's quite a quick question, but I think it's probably an important one because I think a lot of people are wondering this about the PPE, sorry. To confirm, are people able to take or are they able to take the NPPE before completing CBA? At what point do they take the NPPE?
So it's recommended to take the NPP close to your self-assessment, but while you're enrolled in the intern, you can take it at any time.
Okay, so basically anytime, as long as they've already enrolled with the system, yes?
Yeah.
Perfect. Again, questions about the competency. It's great. We're kind of covering, we're killing lots of birds with many stones here. Is it okay if validators currently work for different institutions? And that's a good one, because obviously they need several validators. They don't all have to be from the same place, right? Like if they currently work, does that make sense? Like, yeah. I think it's that concept of who are the validators and where are they working. So it's okay. I think this particular question is asking if they're working at company A, but their validator is currently working at company B, does that matter?
No, it wouldn't matter. It really has to do with what was the role of that validator? Did that validator supervise your work and is very familiar and has firsthand knowledge of your work? So if currently they supervised you while they were working at one employer and now they're working at another, that shouldn't matter. They can attest to supervising you. They can validate and confirm that the work that you performed and the competency that developed while they were supervising you. So yeah, the answer is it is okay if your validators are currently working at a different institution or employer.
Perfect. And I'm seeing this question coming up a few times, so I'm just going to say it again, just for the people in the back. So to confirm, there is no minimum amount of time before an intern can become a professional engineer as long as they finish the competencies and the NPPE.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Louder for the ones in the back. Exactly. You nailed it, Devin. That was a very well structured summary of exactly what the team is saying. Yes. Someone here is saying that they had previously contacted admissions about becoming an intern, but they haven't heard back. Please follow up with us. If you haven't heard back from us in several weeks, follow up. Please send another email. Sometimes people, things get lost in the cracks. Please definitely follow back up. Check that the email address was correct, and maybe wait till tomorrow when I'm going to send those email addresses out as links. You can hit straight there and contact someone directly. You have the right email address then. Okay. And we apologize if you haven't heard back from us for whatever reason. Okay, what about timelines? So let's get into it. They've already applied, they fill in all their information. So what's the anticipated timeline for a CBA to be assessed and approved once it's completed and validated? Do you want to talk about that?
Once it's assessed and by the assessor, so once the self-assessment goes to an assessor and the assessor completes the recommendation, if they recommend registration, we try to, and assuming that the National Professional Practice exam is passed, we will try to get it on the agenda at the next registration committee meeting. So whenever that is, but the two criteria have to be met. The assessor has to recommend registration and the NPPE must be complete and passed. Complete means passed. Sorry, just want to clarify.
That's important clarification. No, that's important. Yeah. Okay. Okay, there's a question here, and we kind of touched on it, but I think this is outside of students. So this is a good question. So they're saying they may have missed it, but they're curious if there's any templates or forms available to log projects or situations over time. So if they're not quite ready to put in their assessment yet, but they want to kind of just make sure they're logging things, do we have a form that they can use, or what would you suggest?
So we have a work experience log that's available to students who are enrolled with the association. That's not, that is accessible through their online profile. So it's not something that we actually post publicly on our website. That said, I mean, think of it as the guide that we referred in the resources, the guide for applicants, validators, and assessors has a great deal of information that you can, once you become familiar with that, you can get a sense of what the competencies that you're going to be asked to self-assess. And that's that situation, action, outcome. And then also there are indicators or workplace examples that can help you decide, oh, these are the types of things that I'm going to want to start thinking about and documenting. So that would be our advice for those of you that aren't students enrolled with the association, is to have a look at the guide, become very familiar with the competencies in there, and have a look at the workplace indicators. That's something that you can start documenting on your own, so that when you do become registered as an intern or enrolled as an intern, you can pretty much seamlessly start working on your self-assessment in the CBA reporting system.
Perfect. Here's an interesting question about moving provinces. So I think we haven't really touched on this one. I think this could affect several people on this course. So let's delve into that. So someone who is already in a different province, enrolled as an intern there, moving in between provinces, can you talk a little bit about how the CBA system really fits into people who are moving between provinces for work, and where they should be completing the CBA process or another application process if they're elsewhere and they aren't doing CBA? How does that work?
I think it really depends on the situation. It's kind of hard to answer it, but every province, every engineering regular has different admissions policies and procedures. So if you're in the CBA system here and you move to another province, you're most likely going to have to copy and paste those competencies into their CBA system, because they may have different policies and procedures. So that answers a bit of it, but it really depends on the situation. It's hard to answer.
Yeah, and this person sounds like they may have already moved. So now that you're in Manitoba, definitely reach out to us and let's talk about that in a bit more detail for your particular situation. Okay, this is a question that I think we have definitely seen before about validators. So if there's only one professional engineer who would be a suitable validator, who has first-hand knowledge of your work, what other options does that person have for the additional validators that they need? So can we just revisit who can be a validator? Who can they be asking to fulfill that role for them?
Well, I would say, sorry, go ahead, Chantal.
No, you go ahead. Go.
I was just going to say, and then you can kind of, I would say that, the situation that's you're at to me, it's a rare one. It's not something that's common. So my suggestion would be to probably reach out to us, and then we could kind of discuss it. But Chantal, did you have something else to add?
That's what I was.
Is that what you were going to say? Okay.
Yeah, so if you do find yourself in that situation, definitely reach out. Let's get into your particular situation a little bit more. Okay, a lot of questions about volunteer hours, professional development. We've touched upon that already. Definitely, keep doing volunteer hours, keep doing professional development. It's still important. But yeah, getting a lot of questions about that. We've kind of touched on that one. Validators and assessors. Yes, we've mentioned all about they can be from different places. There's a lot of repeat questions here. Here's a good one. Is there a time limit or an expiry date on reporting? It says student work experience, but I think that could apply for any work experience, really. Like, is there a kind of a limit to how far you can go back with reporting experience for competencies?
There's no time limit. It's just a matter of trying to get those validators if you're going back many, 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 many years. But it's not time-based, so there's no. You have to keep in mind that when the file gets to the assessor and to the registration committee, they're going to look at that and make that full assessment. So you want to just make sure that you have documented all of the competencies nice and clearly, and provided the best situation explanations possible to show that that you are indeed ready for registration.
And kind of linked to this, someone's saying it's kind of the opposite of how quickly can I get it. Is there a prescriptive period when this kind of, is there a deadline? So if you apply to CBA, is there a point at which like you have to do it by an endpoint? Or is it really just as long as it takes?
So this time there's no deadline. It's just based on the applicant, how quickly, or if I think Anjanette mentioned, how quickly, and if you have gained those competencies or not. Because if you haven't, then you know that you need to gain them.
Interesting question here, and we may have touched upon it, maybe I missed that section, about can validators be from outside of Canada? Do they have to be Canadian?
Validators can be from anywhere as long as they're able to validate and verify the information, and that they stick with the policy, which is for validators to must be professional engineers or equivalents.
Perfect. And I'm seeing a few questions along these lines, so I'm going to paraphrase a couple here about assessors. I think there may be a little bit of misunderstanding here. To clarify, assessors are not provided by the applicant, correct?
Correct.
Correct. So
the association assigns the assessor.
Yeah, I'm seeing a few questions about assessors and choosing assessors. So just to be clear, as an applicant, that is not your role. You have enough to do. We'll cover the assessor side of it. We'll assign you an assessor. You do not have to worry about the assessor side. It's the validator side that's important for you folks. But I'm glad that you asked that question. The few of you that asked that question, I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, I think we kind of touched upon this, but again, there's a few questions and I want to make sure we're clear. Is there a maximum number of competencies that one validator can validate? For example, this person say, oh, could 3 validators each do 1 competency and the 4th do the remaining 31? That's a very extreme example. But I'm seeing Claudia nodding. Claudia, you want to take that one?
Yeah, it's possible. It's up to the applicant to distribute between the validators.
Perfect. Good question though. Yeah, I like those ones. I think, Claudia, you mentioned this again, but not everybody's here was right at the beginning. So let's talk about this. Do they have to write everything in paragraphs, or can certain things be bulleted?
Yep. And we allow point form. Bulletin, point form. Yeah.
All the same. Yeah, totally. Someone here is asking, are customer professional engineers, so we might say vendors or partners, acceptable validators? Again, we touched on this, but maybe they missed it. So perhaps they're not their boss, but someone that they're working with as a seller, for example, can they be a validator?
That is possible. They would have to have first-hand knowledge, though, of the work that individual was conducting. So yeah, it's quite possible. We've seen sort of clients, customers, consultants, that sort of thing, but they must be familiar with the work.
Perfect. Yeah. So really it's the familiarity rather than their job title is really what I'm hearing from you folks. Perfect. Okay. Still going like 15 minutes behind in terms of where my questions are at. So there's a lot of repeats. So I'm just checking. If there's anything new coming through, we've talked about Canada. We have got a few people asking specifically about being CETs and moving into this. Unless you want to touch on that, I'm going to say that's probably something that they need to reach out to you about.
We could
want to talk about it?
We could comment just on that. So
sure.
So somebody with the CET applying would not be eligible for the professional engineer or geoscientist pathway. You need to have that 4-year bachelor's degree to be eligible for that pathway. However, a CET, so potentially like a 3-year diploma in engineering technology, or another discipline, could apply for to become an engineering licensee or geoscientist licensee. So if that was the case, then they would still continue to move through CBA to complete the CBA report. So same process, but it's just a different pathway.
That's actually really helpful. You covered a couple of different people's questions with that answer. So thank you, Anjanette. Chantal, this is one for you. A question about current EITs. So people who are currently registered in the previous system.
Okay.
What is happening with them? Are they automatically shifting to the CBA program?
So if they have not completed a progress report and it has not been approved by the Experience Review Committee, they were automatically transitioned to CBA. If they have an approved report, there was something that was sent out in March or April during the year where we asked if they wanted to stay or move to CBA. So they should have received notification if they have an approved progress report.
Perfect. Have seen a couple of questions here coming up about potential validators that are either retiring, in the process of retiring, or have now retired. So does somebody want to touch upon that, about where a validator perhaps may no longer be a professional engineer and has retired? Like, they can still use them as a validator, but obviously they would no longer be considered that professional validator. Is that right?
I think it would depend on this. I think it's more of a case by case situation.
Yeah.
You know how, yeah, I just think they should reach out if they have a question.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think a few people are facing this one, so that might be something that's going to come up more as we go through this one. Interesting question here about goals of when to submit work examples. So this person is saying, is the goal to only submit work examples against a competency if it could be ranked at, you know, a higher level, like what we talked about? Is that the kind of the goal, is that you don't really submit them until you know that you're at the higher stages?
Yes, I think what we usually see is applicants are going to be selecting examples towards the most recent experiences, because you know that you've put in time to develop a competency, and you're going to actually be reaching that level 3, we call it, at the practicing level later in the process, right? So typically you're going to want to choose your best examples where you can demonstrate that you have developed that competency to a professional practicing level.
Perfect. This is, I think we mentioned this briefly before, but can you just clarify, how often does the registration committee meet to go over assessed, like CBA reports and things like that? We did talk about that, didn't we?
The registration committee meets once a month. So it's their monthly meetings. So as long as your CBA report is assessed, it'll be available at the next registration.
Perfect. And those dates are available on our website. They are there for a reason, to help you plan when you want to submit things. So check those out on our calendar under events. You will find those. They are already there for 2023. Here's a question about requirements for an assessor. Now, I'm hoping that this person is maybe considering becoming an assessor. So does somebody want to quickly talk about if we have some professional engineers or geoscientists on the call who want to know more about becoming an assessor to be part of that side of the CBA program, what do they have to do?
Answer the call-outs. Go ahead, Jeanette.
Yes, we are encouraging our members, professional engineers and geoscientists, to become involved and become a CBA assessor. We have information on our website under the volunteer opportunity section, and there's contacts there. There's a little description of areas that we're specifically looking for. So yeah, we encourage any CBA assessor to check out that page on volunteer opportunities and contact the association. And generally, we will conduct a little bit of an interview just to get to know you a little bit more. But yes, always looking for CBA assessors.
Perfect. So I'm seeing that we just have 1 minute left. So I've narrowed it down to 2 last questions just to finish us off. So I apologize if we didn't get to your question today. Do reach out to us if it is one of those individual questions. But first question I have is an important one. What if somebody has assigned a validator and that validator is simply not doing their job? They're not getting back to them. Do they have an option of changing the validator? I think this is an important one to address as we move forward. You know, you pick your validator at the beginning. What if something happens? Is it easy for people to change validators if needed?
So
Go ahead,
go
Chantal.
ahead. No, you go ahead. Sorry.
It is possible. It is possible, and it has been done, and I'm sure it will be done moving forward. Chantal, did you have more to add?
No.
Okay.
Reach out to the team if you're having trouble. I think is probably a message for that one. If you are having issues with your validators not getting back to you, not filling out what they need to do, reach out to the team. That's what they're there for. They'll help you out. And then the last question we have is whether they can see this presentation again. So we're going to end on that one. And yes, you can. We are recording this, and recording will be sent out tomorrow to all you folks, along with some important links that we've talked about today and contact details to everybody that you see on screen, except for me. You don't need to email me. I'm not that interesting. You want to talk to these other folks instead. And they will be able to help you out with any additional questions that you have. Before we wrap up, Claudia, Chantal, and Jeanette, is there anything that you would like to say?
Just thank you for your interest in joining us today. As I mentioned, we're going to be offering this on a monthly basis in the new year. So if you or colleagues or somebody you know would like to see it again or didn't get a chance to participate, please encourage them to check out the presentation. And we will be providing further resources on our website related to CBA. So please check out the website, and also reach out to us directly if you have any questions.
Wonderful. And on behalf of everybody watching, you had over 160 people today, folks. So Claudia, Chantal, and Jeanette, thank you so much for your time. Everybody watching, thank you for your time too. We hope you found this useful. Do keep continuously engaging with us as an association. Reach out to the team. We are here for you. We want to see you succeed, and we want to hear your questions. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. That's what we're here for. And have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, everybody, for coming along. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye.